Something rare just happened between the United States and Canada. Not behind closed doors. Not in private talks. It exploded in public. A US ambassador lost control. Canada fired back. Donald Trump hinted at new tariffs. And suddenly, one of America's closest allies started looking elsewhere. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a warning. It happened at one of the most important US-Canada events of the year. The Canadian-American Business Council's State of the Relationship meeting. This event is usually calm, polite, carefully scripted. But this time, everything broke. Witnesses say US Ambassador Pete Hoekstra suddenly erupted. Not a debate. Not a disagreement. A profanity-filled outburst. His target was Ontario's trade representative, David Paterson. F-bombs. Angry jabs at Doug Ford. Open rage over a Canadian ad running on US TV. The ad used Ronald Reagan's 1987 speech warning about tariffs. Its message was simple: protectionism has real costs. But in Washington, it hit a nerve. Within hours, Donald Trump froze trade talks. Then came the threat: another 10% tariff on Canadian goods. What made this moment so serious wasn't just the language. It was the place. This was a public diplomatic event, packed with ministers, foreign diplomats, and industry leaders. Hoekstra was scheduled to speak. Instead, after the outburst, he was quietly removed from the program. For Canadians, this wasn't one bad moment. It felt like something bigger had changed. Partnership was gone. Volatility took its place. And the message spreading fast across Canada was simple: send him home. That anger didn't fade. It moved straight to the loudest voice in the room. Ontario Premier Doug Ford didn't stay quiet. He called Hoekstra's behavior completely unacceptable, not a slip, not a misunderstanding. Unacceptable. Ford's demand was clear: pick up the phone. Apologize. No soft words. No diplomatic cover. He said the ambassador had lost control. Plain and simple. Ford admitted politics gets heated. Even his own style can be rough. But leadership, he said, still means restraint. This wasn't only about one outburst. For years, Donald Trump had mocked Canada's role, even joking it should become America's 51st state. At the same time, US tariffs hit steel, aluminum, autos, and energy. Industries built across the border were suddenly under pressure. Ford reminded people of Reagan's warning: tariffs don't protect workers. They hurt them. Factories across Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania were already feeling it. Rising costs. Lost orders. An estimated 78,000 US manufacturing jobs vanished in just 5 months. Ford's response captured a national mood. Canada was done absorbing insults. Respect had to go both ways. And while Ford drew his line in public, someone else was working quietly in the background. Not reacting. Planning. That person was Mark Carney. While Doug Ford went public, Mark Carney stayed calm. No yelling. No insults. No drama. Carney moved carefully. He cleared up the ad issue fast, not as weakness, but to keep talks alive. But Washington didn't cool down. Donald Trump said he wouldn't talk to Carney for a while, even though both leaders were at the same APEC summit in South Korea. Photos showed them in the same room. Same table. Sitting apart. No handshake. No words. Two engines running in opposite directions. Carney didn't react online. He didn't trade quotes. Instead, he got to work. While the White House focused on one TV ad, Carney was signing deals. Asia. Pacific partners. Long-term trade. He strengthened ties with South Korea and Japan. He reopened talks with China, especially on energy and minerals. Then came the message few noticed. At a massive shipyard, Carney toured Canada's future submarines. Part of a defense and industrial program worth over $20 billion. This wasn't theater. It was strategy. While US politics looked unstable, Carney was building options. New markets. New routes. Less risk. Canada wasn't arguing anymore. It was preparing. And that preparation pointed to something bigger. A shift that had been building quietly for years. Tension with Washington didn't slow Canada down. It sped things up. Mark Carney pushed a long-term plan into high gear. Less dependence on the United States. For decades, Canada leaned heavily on US buyers. Most exports went south. Every tariff shock hit hard. Autos. Energy. Mining. Farming. One move from Washington could shake entire regions. Carney decided that risk was no longer acceptable. The new plan was clear. Sell more outside the US, expand Atlantic and Pacific ports. Build more at home. Canada started investing heavily in steel, aluminum, and rare earth processing. Critical materials the modern economy depends on. Only about 40% of Canada's steel was made domestically. That wasn't safe anymore. More local production meant more control. More jobs. More stability. Abroad, partners noticed. Japan and South Korea moved closer on defense and industry. China stayed engaged on minerals and energy supply. This wasn't a break from the US, it was a backup plan turning into a main plan. And that's when the real issue came into focus. Because this crisis wasn't only about trade. It was about attitude. And one outburst had exposed it. Remove the shouting. Remove the headlines. What's left is the real problem. Diplomacy isn't a street fight. It runs on control, respect, and judgment. Pete Hoekstra showed none of that. An ambassador is supposed to connect countries, not attack them. When that role breaks, trust breaks with it. Hoekstra brushed off Canadian concerns. Downplayed Donald Trump's 51st state joke. Framed criticism as anti-American. That message landed hard. Canadians pushed back fast. They weren't anti-American. They were rejecting chaos. They respect the US, they respect its people and shared history. But they don't accept bullying or unstable behavior. One commentator said Hoekstra's tone felt personal, not professional. Like pressure instead of partnership. This outburst didn't start Canada's shift. But it confirmed why the shift was needed. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. And that brings us to what this moment really means. This wasn't a small dispute. It marked a change. Hoekstra's meltdown. Donald Trump's tariff threats. Washington's mixed signals. Together, they forced a hard realization. Stability can't depend on unpredictability. Doug Ford demanded accountability. Mark Carney delivered direction. Canadians demanded respect. The result? Faster diversification. More self-reliance. Wider global ties. Canada isn't waiting for Washington to calm down. It's building strength on its own. The question now isn't about Canada. It's about the United States. Will America adjust to a more independent neighbor? Or will it watch influence slip away? What do you think? Is Canada making the right move? How should the US respond? And what does this mean for North American industry going forward? Leave your thoughts in the comments.